Speaking of death and how we as Christians can be thankful for life after the grave, for the next question, someone had heard that in a sermon you cautioned us about using phrases such as celebration of life when referring to a funeral service. Can you say more about this?
Yes, and so when I saw this question, I went back and looked at my notes and looked at exactly what I had said. I've only mentioned this once in a sermon, and maybe you remember it. I had cautioned the use of the phrase celebration of life. I want to be clear. I did not say not to use it. I said be careful about using it for a number of reasons. One is because the teaching of Proverbs, that an apple of gold is just wonderful in settings of silver. And that's what a word fitly spoken is. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in settings of silver. And so in times of tragedy, we got to be very careful about the language that we use. I said that because in this particular sermon, Weeping with Those Who Weep from Romans 16, I was actually trying to help our church understand how we ought to respond to those who are undergoing tragedy. And I wanted us to be very careful about what we said. I've been to a number of funerals in my life. I've done 15 funerals as of last week in the last 3.5 years. And I've heard some people say some pretty unhelpful things, some pretty trivial things and things that only add to the hurt. And so I think I had taken like 30 seconds in that sermon to say something, which is probably why there's clarification needed. Again, I wasn't saying we shouldn't say that, but I think if we're not careful, we as Christians can sometimes promote the idea that we're never supposed to be sad. And that's just not true. We can use the phrase celebration of life as long as we're understanding that we are supposed to grieve. I have heard a number of times at funerals that this is not a sad time, it's a happy time. No, that's just not true. They're saying they have the right motivation in their heart, right? It's a happy time because we have hope, as I just shared about my mamaw. But my mamaw's funeral was not a happy time. And I don't think the death of your loved ones is a happy time. I think it is a sad time, and that's appropriate because the Bible gives us the command to grieve. 1 Thessalonians 4 says that we are supposed to grieve. When you use a phrase like celebration of life, and I'm not saying everybody who did this, again, just please take me in the spirit I'm saying it in, sometimes that's used to almost sort of like mask what's really going on and promoting that we don't have to be sad or that we're not supposed to be sad. But we are. We're supposed to grieve. And that's commanded to us in 1 Thessalonians 4. But we don't grieve without hope, that's true, but we still grieve. I think it's Ecclesiastes 3 that says there's a time to weep and there's a time to mourn. And that time is certainly at the time of death. We see this in a number of passages, and we even see our Lord Jesus demonstrate this. We see in John chapter 11, when Lazarus, his family friend, died, he did not say, let's go celebrate Lazarus' life. Instead, he said, he was broken. In John 11:35, the shortest verse in the Bible, Jesus wept. Jesus wept. He grieved. He took the time to grieve, even though he went and he raised Lazarus from the grave. He wept. And so again, please don't take this as like an attack on the phrase celebration of life. Just be careful that you're not using that to say we should not be sad at funerals. Because we all know one of the first stages of grief is denial, and that phrase might contribute to that stage of grief. It's just a caution. Be careful about the language we use. I think that's a good general rule. That's all I was really saying about celebration of life. We've had those in our family because even at the 2 funerals I did last week, I said in both of them, we are here to honor the life that this person lived and mourn their death. So as long as all you mean is we want to have a memorial, we want to honor their life, that's great. Just don't let that become a way that you're saying we are not grieving, because you should.